Hello and welcome. Another edition of the show where Bruce Larkin of Showball and I spend some time with a college coach. Typically, we are going to be talking to high level academic universities and colleges and the head coaches of each of those programs. And today, we are going to be talking to what I would consider to be a pink unicorn, which is a coach that is an alum and over 30 years as a head coach at his alma mater. We're going to be talking with Sean Leary at Lehigh. Sean, thank you so much for taking the time to join Bruce and I today.
Appreciate you having me.
You know, I'm going to kick off real quick. And in a world of, transition every year, whether it's from the NCAA, coaches, athletes, transfer portal, you are an anomaly. You are a head coach at a school that you attended. You are Mr. Lehigh. What does that feel like? And what does that message really offer to families that are considering Lehigh as a part of their journey throughout the college experience?
Yeah, I think it's always been unique because anybody would dream to be the head coach at their alma mater, right? So when that happened at a very young age, I think I was overwhelmed by the fact being 24 and just like scrambling to figure some things out. And over time, when you build some equity with folks like yourself and Bruce and a lot of people in the baseball community, it starts to become a stronger network of what you're selling. And what's kind of been unexpected is the last 5 years, what we do here and what I've done here has become so unique because everything's about change and about movement. And when I sit with parents, they're like, we kind of know you're going to be here, right? They'll ask that question. And then they go, well, you've been here quite a bit of time. And I'm not sure that's a question we want to even be worried about. So that stability has been a strength. And I don't judge others that don't do this, right? Everybody's got their own path. But it's become more of a strength probably the last 10 years, and in particular the last 5, when there's so much uncertainty and anxiety for the parents, right, as they're going through this, that they know when they turn their son over to us, it's going to be a pretty our stable situation, but fluid in the regards of like my staff and myself are just going to be working with with their son for those 4 years.
Now, Sean, Walter mentioned that you'd been at Lehigh for 30 plus years. I want to go back to that first year, right? What is something that you as a new head coach learned in that first year that you're still utilizing today?
Yeah, I think when I was 24 and I was a senior, when I was coaching players I played with. So I'm not sure that's ever going to happen again where someone gets a job that soon after. But I think the first piece of advice that I would throw to anybody, whether you're 24 or 54 now, is you got to trust what you believe in and your instincts. And you doubt those a lot more at year one, right? You're not sure if that's the persona you need. And you maybe try to do things differently because you're like thinking what others are thinking. That's a very slippery slope, right? But when you try to put yourself in someone else's shoes, you're generally not in the same frame of mind that they're in. So I would just say I would have trusted myself a little bit more, but I think the only way to learn that was to do it right and to fail as well, right? As you're going along, what's working. And the second piece would be to surround yourself with great people that you could trust, right? And at a young age, that was a challenge because everybody I was hiring was 10 years older than me, right? Or just starting themselves. So one would have been trusting my instincts, and two, it would have been finding a way to sort of shift some responsibility earlier in my career to others to let them assist me and add some strengths where my weaknesses were.
Sean, I want you to, a family that's watching this right now, they want to kind of get an understanding of where the Patriot League really sits with regard to on one side of the ledger, how does it fit with regard to comparing to, say, the Ivy League and then the rest of Division I athletics with regard to, money, scholarships, academics, things like that. Kind of provide families some insight onto the Patriot League as it compares to not only the other, what I would call big boy on campus, the Ivy League, but the rest of Division I baseball as well.
Yeah, I think what I've sort of modeled our sell at Lehigh, right, and I think the Patriot League probably in general, maybe outside the two academies, which are a unique sell in their own regard, is we want an Ivy League like level education with a Power 4 baseball, right? And I think that's obviously what they're trying to do too. But we think we offer the best of both worlds, right? Somebody who can get elite education and wants to play at a mid-major level, right? We're not going to be silly and go, we're going to win the SEC if we shift it conferences tomorrow. But our conference and the Ivy do so well, or much, much better than people think when we challenge ourselves outside of conference. So for us, our identity is elite academics like the Ivies, and we're looking for that player that maybe Virginia or Vanderbilt finishes a recruiting class, and we want to be right on the cusp there. But our league takes a great deal of pride. I mean, as much as I want Lehigh to win, I want our conference to show as well as possible, because it helps us all recruit if we're achieving on a regional or national level. Now, we've shifted a little bit financially. There's some money in our conference now. I don't know what everybody has, or if everybody has, allotment. That's something that I don't ask every other coach where they are, but that's made a huge difference. And I guess it's humble bragging, but we've had 3 big leaguers in the last 2 years. And I always joke and say that I didn't get that much smarter, right? Like, I'm just able to sort of deep sea fish for that prize fish when you have some ability to target someone and make a financial commitment to them. And I think that's made a huge, it's kind of moved the needle for our league, having a little bit more financial backing. And for a parent, they know you care, right? If the school's building a facility or adding financial resources, they know that they're going into a program that baseball is stable and growing. And I think that's, where I'm probably most proud is from when I played on a borderline high school field 30 years ago or 35 years ago at Lehigh. It's just a different feel and a different look. And someday when I turn it over, hopefully we're even a step closer to where I aspire us to be.
To piggyback off of that, from the Patriot League, let's talk specifically about Lehigh as a prospective student athlete looking at Lehigh. Explain to us about the education that Lehigh brings and how that would help that young man 40 years down the road. Sure.
I think folks should know the brand. It was an engineering school when it was founded 150 years ago. I was not here back then. Some things I started just my senior year, I guess. But now it's got an amazing business program. And, I have a daughter who attends here, and she's not like her dad. She's doing astrophysics. So she's in the arts and sciences school, right? So like, we look at it in any major that someone wants to come in. We just added a health and science technology college. We're blessed in regards, when I recruit, there probably isn't a prospect that says, oh, I want to do this, and we don't have it, right? So that's awesome. And then our job placement is pretty I don't want to say insane, but just so elite. It's top 10 every year of like starting salaries and opportunities. That money's not everything, but certainly you're investing in the opportunity to have opportunities for your children. And this place creates so many terrific 40-year opportunities, right? Beyond baseball. Someday you're gonna go to Wall Street or to law school or become a doctor or build a bridge, whatever that is. And we've got such a strong lineage of folks doing every one of those paths. And it's one of my recruiting tools. We bring those folks back regularly to share their journey of how they got to where they are. And one piece that I love is Lehigh is like a life learning type of place where a lot of our successful alums aren't even doing what they studied, right? They just get in the real world and they partner up with someone. But it's the connection of the place, the job placement, and then the alumni connections that make it a 40-year commitment. That seems to be a pretty easy sell for me, to be honest. Folks see it and go, I think my son can be pretty successful with that piece of paper.
Sean, a lot of parents want to understand, what does a transcript of a potential student athlete have to look like? And more importantly, when does the pre-read process begin for you? When you begin identifying a student athletically, what does the academic piece have to look like in order for you to kind of clear a certain hurdle or a threshold with regard to Lehigh?
Yeah, I think what's important is we're not admissions counselors, right, as coaches, but I have a pretty good sense of when I see a transcript what it looks like. The piece that I think 30 years of experience has helped me with is not every high school has the same opportunities for young men. So if your high school has 22 APs and you didn't take one, that might be a wash. It may not be a plus for you. If school offers 3 honors classes and 1 AP and you're in all of them, that might be a stronger transcript than others. So it's not apples and oranges, but it's not one size fits all, right? So my advice is always take the hardest courses you can handle and achieve at the highest level, right? Don't get a 95 in all college prep if you're capable and you're interested in becoming an engineer someday. You probably want to be in some AP chemistry and physics and calc if that's your path, right? But I don't know that you always need AP, Latin if you're going to go into business, right? So pick a hard curriculum. I love the transcript that's a 3.8 plus. I don't know how to do these weighted GPAs. Some kids have a 5.7 now. I don't even know how that's possible. But take the hardest courses you can while doing well, right? So we're test optional. So we will look at it for folks probably 1380, 1400 above. I start to go, that's really intriguing for our admissions. but they love to see the kids who are, 3.8 GPA, maybe a B or 2 on there, but not 7, and certainly avoid the C's and below. But it's how are you challenging yourself with the opportunities in front of you? And so I can't go to every kid. This is the path. I love that our admissions knows every high school in the country. I mentioned a kid and they'll be like, yep, that's Bruce's region or that's Derek's region. And they're like, they'll tell me what they should be taking. And then they give me counsel on a kid senior year, maybe what they could do after we get a pre-read. What's your question? We do that. Like if we love a kid and we want to see maybe August of their junior year, and that's fluid all the way through probably September of their senior year. Like we don't recruit all 10 guys as juniors. It's when it's right and when it bubbles up. But we might do 15 pre-reads the whole fall of this year for our 28s. It's just not something you need to do for every kid that's going through the process. I may have 40 transcripts that I pre-read myself, but before we get to the point where we're really serious, we send them admissions and they give us a good sense of like kind of a yes, no, maybe. And the maybes are really helpful because they'll say, coach, have them take this either in the spring if it's an opportunity where there's semesters and or their senior year. They say this would really enhance their transcript if they took this. So coaches can be a great conduit to the admissions office for a prospect for sure.
Now, switching from the academic side to the baseball side, I hear this all the time. Bruce, surely there aren't that many kids with a 1,400 or 1,500 wanting to play college baseball. And my response is always more than you know. There are a lot of smart kids out there who want to play baseball. How do you explain to a parent that while they have to have that academic background to get into Lehigh, you're looking for the best athlete who happens to have that? How do you explain that to a parent?
Yeah, Bruce, I think it's a great question. When I first started coaching, we'll go back to that question. I recruited really, really smart kids and hoped that they were good at baseball. Now I recruit really great baseball players and just almost assume like we work, your circuit, the show ball circuit. I know when I go there, 98% of those kids already check that one box. So I get to go watch baseball, right? They've almost vetted out by reading the website. Hey, this is who's going to be there. Why wouldn't I sign up? My son has this academic profile. So we make the assumption that most of the kids at high academic event like showball, we know what we're getting into. When I go to just a high school game or in the old days, Legion game, the first question I ask the coach is, give me the 3 kids on your team that might be fits for us so I can kind of center my attention. And to me, again, it's not just one number. It's like the holistic feel for it. And the advice I give parents is there's a chance baseball pushes open a door that's slightly open and kind of pushes it further open. It's not going to open the door if there's a floor, right? And our floor is pretty darn high in the Ivies and in the Patriot League. But when it's a little bit open and the kid can play shortstop or he's a really talented baseball player, that differentiates them the same way someone who's in the marching band or someone who wants to do a crazy major like my daughter was doing. Like they're like, hey, that's different. That's different. We want that person. We're blessed where we have such a one-on-one relationship with our admissions office that we can put a face to that piece of paper, that transcript. And generally speaking, most of our kids don't even need a little help. They're right there academically. And once in a while, that little nudge I can give, it might be 3 kids a year that I push up. Almost, I jokingly say, like, I might add 20 points to their SATs, but not 120, right? Like, so it helps. And we're just as honest as we can be with parents. And I've done this a lot at your showcase, Bruce, where I'll tell parents, just ask us those questions. Like, what do you think? How do you think this fits? Where do I stand? And perhaps, is this something that you could work with? Right. And that's when I go to that admissions read. When I turn that over to them and they say, yeah, this is going to work. So kind of a back and forth, but the piece that most people miss is baseball. Baseball's so important. You got to be good. You got to be good at what you do.
Sean, in today's world of, for parents, which is so frustrating because of even a few years ago, we didn't even broach these topics when it came to recruiting. But with now the activity in the portal and you have all the 5th year discussion that's kind of out and about in the world of courts and NCAA, talk a little bit about roster construction. Has it changed for you with regard to the high school athlete? Is it business as usual at Lehigh? You bring the high school athletes in as seniors and they come in as freshmen and you build from your high school classes, or is the portal involved at all at Lehigh?
Yeah, go back to what I said a moment ago. Ask that question when you're being recruited by whichever coach that is. If you ask Coach Leary, he would tell you almost business as usual, right? our niche has been recruit and develop. Bring them in, develop them. Portal activity, we haven't had a portal. We had no one on the portal 2 summers ago and one this summer, and it was literally a personal situation more than it was a baseball situation. The average is like 12 per Division I program. So we're super proud at Lehigh that number is almost non-existent. So when it's non-existent, that means we're also not using it the same way that others are. I will share, maybe in 3 years, I have this conversation and say, hey, we're on there for 3 or 4 kids. That's not how I like to build my roster. But when we have an injury, we brought someone in this summer. We had a kid drafted. Like when it's a 1-for-1, that's not even really using the portal to me. That's just that's great roster management that I didn't have the opportunity to use before. So use it. But for us, I want to bring in, we have a 40-man roster. So I want to bring in 10 kids a year and develop them. And, the injury here or the slight attrition there, that might be the fill-in. But again, I tell parents, look at a roster and look for the slash. The slash means high school / college / and the more slashes, the more opportunity that they're bringing in transfers. And honestly, the more opportunity that they're going to be releasing players. And that's just something that people need to be aware of. High academics, and I know Bruce and I chat about this a bunch at the show ball events, like we haven't really seen a major seismic shift, right? And how we're operating. And I think that's another reason why folks are excited to go to an event like that, because they know what they're getting into, right? These are schools that recruit my son, going to develop them. I often say to parents, you'll be more likely to make that move than we will be, the coaches here, right? I know this is not the best Lehigh sell, but like if you're a high D3 kid and you have a great year, stay and go be a dude there and help them win a World Series. Like we all work so hard as coaches that we don't love when people, jump around, because it's easy to pick the kid who's had a great year, right? And go, you did a great job developing them, and now I want them. And so I tell parents, pick a place you want your son to be fostered and nurtured and matures there, and then enjoy that opportunity, right? And so the new 5 for 5, maybe that changes for some. They go there 4 and they can pop a 5th year somewhere else. But man, I want kids who want to be here their entire career. And I think it's kind of fun when we have graduate programs. A lot of my kids are now in my office asking about that 5th year. And I'm going to be very prudent about it, right? I want to bring in a freshman class. I can't keep 10 seniors every year, right? So I'm going to be making that decision each summer of like, hey, we're keeping 3. Now we bring in 7, right? So roster management for a parent is probably the first question I'd ask if they're being seriously recruited. Ask how the coach manages it and where their son might stand within that system.
Yeah, absolutely. I, as a former JUCO coach, like, get them in, get them out type deal. And I find that a lot of D3s are becoming junior colleges for some of these other schools. And mid-major D1s are becoming junior colleges for the major D1s. So I can imagine how frustrating that can be for certain schools.
Sure.
So when you're out recruiting, right, and you're at a tournament, you're at a show ball, you're somewhere recruiting. Parents want to know, what are you looking for? And I always think that that's an open-ended question, that there's no one size fit all. It's you
Sure.
know when you see it. But what's some things that you can tell parents or tell players to do at a showcase to set themselves apart from others?
Yeah, Bruce, I always say the same thing. I don't think there's one thing, right? I said it to a parent, if I was making like a little joke, I'd say, sit next to me at show ball for 12 hours and you'd pick the same 6 kids. Well, that part of it's not the most challenging. Then it's, hey, do they want to go to Lehigh or do they want to go to, Stanford? Like, I got to make sure I sell what I sell. There's that part, identifying isn't always challenging. But so when you see a talented player, I'm watching, I know probably cliche to some, but I'm watching how they're going on and off the field, how they're handling themselves when an umpire, sometimes at a showcase or a high school game, a ball's 3 balls off the plate and they're called out. You'd be amazed how we react to that. Is if they argue the call at camp, you're like, ooh, I don't know if I'm excited about that kid's attitude. We watch how they handle that adversity. I love when a pitcher throws a 2-hopper to short and the kid boots it, because now he gets to show me how he interacts with the shortstop and how he responds to a moment that he didn't do anything wrong. He did his job. So there's something about that sort of body language, that energy, that positivity. Again, you got to be a good player, but I think I cross more folks off for the intangibles than I do add them to my roster, right? So some of those elements don't work. I go, oh, there's another talented kid whose dad's not yelling at the umpire to showcase, right? Like I say that with a smile. Like we can find the kids and families who are locked in. But then the physical side, there's just an athleticism you look for. I don't recruit infielders. I recruit, maybe more shortstops and middle guys and move them. And I look for athletes in the outfield. So like every position's a little different. And again, I think you have to ask the coach what his number one thing is. I would say defense 9 times out of 10 when someone's like, what are you looking for here? And then that frustrates a parent when they're like, oh, my son really hits. I go, well, he'll play third, but my shortstop, center field catcher, I can survive with a 240 batting average. They don't always hit 240. They can hit 300 for me. But I like to have guys who can save some runs as much as I do that and knock them in. So, again, athleticism. And then I know it's hard, but tools are more important than pure metrics, right? Like, just like if they can run and throw, I don't care if it's exit velo of 101 or 94. Like it matters, but I think there's cutoffs at the bottom end more than there is I have to recruit a certain spin rate. Or have to recruit a certain velo. Those guys are your 5 o'clock hitters and your Wednesday midweek scrimmage guys sometimes when they look good in practice. So there's a ton of element. The hard part in today's world is seeing enough game action. Bruce, I'll see 10 kids at show ball and I want to see them again. Like I want to try to get them in their world if I can on an actual game field. And that's become a little more challenging than when I coached recruited 30 years ago. There's less team ball being going on, like a Legion or where you're actually trying to win. So we've got to chase that a little bit, but we'll circle our most of our prospects the last few years have come from events like a show ball. We looked at our rotation last year. I'm like, show ball. But then we got to see them again and went out and watched them in their own environment to see how they handle those other elements I just mentioned.
Sean, you're going to be able to answer this. This will be my final question. And I always try to get parents to understand the college years are so much more than baseball, and talking about the relationships and the rapport and the moments and the memories, not only with faculty and student body, but with teammates and coaches. And it lasts for decades. And so you have a unique perspective as an alum and now as a coach over 30 years. You've been able to graduate class after class that comes back now as parents, business leaders are in their 40s, so you have a unique perspective. Can you share with families and student athletes that college athletics is not a transaction? It's a transition with regard to leaving your teenage years and becoming an adult, and why that will matter to you as a 35 to 40-year-old, particularly with regard to the Lehigh alums?
I would say beyond a shadow of a doubt, and I know it's very individualistic to 2 days ago, but I was in Chicago watching that crazy Cub game where PCA hit the walk-off. My highlight, 1 was with my daughter, and 2 was one of my players left work, drove a e-bike across town just to hang out for 20 minutes before the game, right? Like that's not once a summer for me. That's probably 10 times a summer where someone was back golfing on the weekend before and we met for like – the relationships are again, I say we're not a transactional program. We're a relational program. And that is literally 40 years. I got, again, humble brag here. I got 2 big leaguers right now, and I'm going to both of their weddings in late November this year. Like that's, to me, I love watching them, but I love the fact that they'll still pick up the phone on a good day or bad day to just still get some counsel from their coach, right? That's part of what we do. But I also do that when they're changing jobs or they're transitioning. Like you become a lifetime mentor for them. And I have a couch across my way in the office here, and that's for my players. And I laugh how many times an alum comes back and like, Coach, I'm starting a business with these 3 baseball teammates. What do you think? And I'm thinking, oh goodness, I hope I get this right and give them good counsel. But I think anybody's done this for a living, right? You guys can experience. It isn't just when they graduate. You're part of their lives for the next 40 years, and that's helping them with getting jobs. But it also starts here. We do a ton of leadership and character and all those culture things that we do in our program. They're real, and I can say they're real because if they weren't, I wouldn't have these lifelong relationships, right? Something meant something to them where, again, I was gone for 3 days on a little MLB tour. I think I got 7 or 8 text messages from a player asking about something, checking in about something, that were 25, 35, and 45, right? And that my daughter's just like, just looking at me going, every time you look at your phone, it's not just your current players, it's your alumni base. And I think that's one of the coolest elements of this job is if you pour your heart and soul into it, you're going to have these amazing relationships and impactful relationships your whole life.
Well, I mean, that was a great question, Walter. And Sean, your answer led into my final question was, as a family, like, you know, if I'm a father whose son's about to go to college, and if I'm looking at Lehigh, why choose Lehigh? But I think you just explained that very well. Just if you want to just add any more about the insight of how it is a family and how that family in recruiting and bringing in translates on the field and how you play together as a team.
Yeah, I think cliche words are like culture and you know, team bond. You have to invest that time, right? We spend a ton of time on leadership here and culture, and it's not just for the baseball field, it's for their life. But when you get to know whose brother goes to which college and whose sister might have had health issues 2 years ago, and when you get to know your teammates, boy, in those tough moments, sometimes you know when to hug them, you know how to sort of respond to it. And in a not so subtle way, they don't always know it while we're doing it. The intention there is that we're peeling back a few layers so they can be a little vulnerable when needed. And then that translates on the field, right? You're able to kind of know who to push, who to hug up, and who that kind of needs to support when those moments come up. Hey, when you're winning, it's easy. It's always easy. It seems like everybody thinks that that's culture. I think culture is when something goes off the tracks a little bit, and we believe in everything we do. But Bruce, I would say the piece that I go back to the first question is, I also know how to be a little bit better at recruiting the right kids into that system, right? So if you're recruiting one kid who you know is super talented but doesn't fit any other box, character, you know, selflessness, all those other things, it can actually, you know, impact 4 to 7 other players, which then impacts others. So I think that's an element that I talk to my staff about consistently, is not only talent, but if you recruit the right kids, it just kind of like all feeds off itself to add to the culture, and then the lifelong relationships. You know, I got a picture last summer from a wedding, and there were 17 players in the picture. Like, that's awesome. They got a summer house that they've been sharing for like 10 years now, and they just turn it over to the next group. And I think to myself, wait, that guy graduated in 2011. He's still going. He needs to stop going to that house. But they're connected. And I think that's something that I feel as proud about as anything that I do here, is that I do feel like they believe it's a family, and then it stays a family and it stays connected, and it's time you invest, right, as a coach to do that. But I think doesn't even feel like time, right? It feels like an honor or a privilege that they still want you to be a part of their life. So it is something I sell. And now after doing it 30 years, I can honestly tell you it's pretty factual, right? It's something that at 24, I hope could be where we are today. And I hope it continues till the time is I'm not wearing that number 13 on the third baseline. So, but it's been a good run to date.
Well, it's easy to see why families and athletes in particular, you know, gravitate to Lehigh. Obviously, Coach Leary is the captain of that ship, and it's a proud, established program, and really unique in today's world of constant turnover and turmoil. This is a institution that is leading by example. And Sean, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join Bruce and I. And for parents, show ball, it's very different. I always say to parents, there are showcases and then there is show ball. What makes show ball different is that you have people like Sean Leary who are watching your student athlete, and they're not simply evaluating skill sets on a ball field. They're evaluating a young man during a pivotal point in their life. So, Sean, thank you so much for joining Bruce and I today.
Thanks for having me.